Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This video this week is not going to be part of semi-serious. It's going to be just a regular old serious vlog. Not really regular, but something happened in the US this past week that really shook me in a way that I wasn't anticipating, and so I decided that I was going to talk today about the school shooting in Florida. Because it happened again. This is something that has become almost routine in the US, and that's completely unacceptable. And right now, I'm wrestling with the grief that I feel for the loss of life, and also the disappointment that I continue to feel in the US government and the way that these decisions are being made. And I don't want this to be like a polemical video. I don't want this to turn into some sort of like, I don't want to go on a political rant. I mean, there's a part of me that does and a part of me that doesn't. I recognize that that's not really my platform, that's not really my place. But I do want to say that I'm very disappointed in the fact that this has become routine to an extent. There are really two main things that I wanted to cover in this video, and the first one is important to me. It's something that I feel like I've talked about on this channel before, and that is mental health. Because of the fact that this happens pretty regularly, too regularly in the US, there is sort of a media cycle that we can anticipate where the conversation is going to be going and what kinds of rhetorical moves people on both sides of the gun control debate are going to have. And one of those on the conservative side is always that the person who killed all of those people is mentally ill and suffers from mental illness and is therefore some sort of an outlier and not a normal person. And this, because it's not normal behavior, then it has to be mental health. It has to be a mental health issue. And as you might imagine, I take issue with that. This rhetoric of mental illness being the culprit for gun violence is not helpful. It's further stigmatizing mental health issues and mental illness in a way that prevents people from being able to seek treatment. And it continues, there's no reason to really bring it up, because we know from these shootings and mass murders happening that even after pundits claim that mental illness is responsible for these people's deaths, nothing changes. It's not like it leads to better accessibility to mental health care or mental health treatment or counseling or medication or anything. It's that's never what happens. It's always just a scapegoat. People blame mental health because it's something that seems nebulous and ambiguous and that they don't fully understand. And so it's easy to blame that, because then it can be this sort of ambiguous enemy that we don't know how to combat. When of course that's not true. We do know how to fix mental health, and it's with mental health care. it's with healthcare. Don't get me wrong. I think that having access to mental health care is incredibly important, but I think that when people talk about mental health in the wake of a tragedy like the shooting that happened in Florida, they're not talking about it in a way that's going to facilitate better access to care. They're talking about it as a scapegoat, and that's not helpful. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is the kids, because they're children. These are children that are dying, children that are having to live in fear, and children that are growing up in a generation that has had to learn the hard way that change has to come from them, and that policy changes and legislative changes don't just happen because they want them to happen, and that even major tragedies like this won't necessarily inherently affect change. One of the things that I have been amazed by in a good way in the aftermath of this event is how brave and how courageous these surviving students and teachers and community members, but particularly the high school students who survived this attack, have been. They've been extremely vocal. They've been incredibly brave in speaking their truth and speaking their stories, and I can't say enough how proud I am, how proud they make me that they're coming out of trauma resilient, and they're setting examples of how to be leaders in their community, and of how to endure, and of how to persevere in the face of such incredible violence and hate and destruction. And they've changed their trauma into a galvanizing force, and they're moving forward. And I cannot say in strong enough terms how hopeful that makes me for our future. As we're talking about this, we should not overlook the strength of these children. And I think that the fact that we are looking to children for examples of leadership and courage and endurance says a lot about the current state of the United States. But it doesn't change the fact that they're leading us. They're leading us into a future that I am actually hopeful for. It seems normal to you. If you are a young person, if you're a teenager, or even younger, if you're a kid in these days, it might seem normal to you that this is the world that you're growing up into. And it's not. I'm here to tell you that it was not normal for me. I was 8 years old when Columbine happened, and this isn't normal. It's awful that it has become normal, but it's not. And it doesn't have to be in the future. And we can change that. You can change that. You are changing that. And it's inspiring. Thank you for being so brave. And I'm sorry that you have to be so brave. I think the world would be a much better place if we could all be the love that we wish to see in the world, and if we have to keep holding on to each other tightly. We have to keep loving each other, and we have to keep expecting the best out of each other, because we can be better than this, and we have to be better than this. And we will be better than this, together. I'll see you guys next week.